There was this low hum of conversation in the air, broken up every now and then by laughter and the sound of glasses clinking. The fireplace cast a warm, flickering light across the living room, where a group of our closest friends had gathered, drinking wine, sharing stories, acting like time had just stopped for the night. It was my 35th birthday. I stood in the kitchen, leaning one elbow against the counter I'd installed myself last summer, cradling a glass of scotch in my free hand. Everything looked picture-perfect. People kept flashing me warm, genuine smiles, the kind that reminded you of why you keep some folks in your life for decades. Someone had brought a homemade cake. There were wrapped gifts stacked in one corner. A buddy had even pulled out a guitar and was playing something mellow in the background. And she was there, my wife, Anna. Her laughter floated in from the living room like a song I used to whistle while making breakfast. She looked effortlessly beautiful, like she always did. There was something distant about her, though, like she was standing behind glass in a museum. Artful. Untouchable. And somewhere nearby, like always, was Jason, my oldest friend. I heard someone call out from across the room, "Ryan! Man, this party is insane. You really outdid yourself." I smiled back, nodded. "Glad everyone's here," I said. And I meant it. I thought I did. I couldn't tell you the exact moment things started to feel off. Maybe it was a weird stillness in the noise, or the way someone said something that didn't sit quite right, just a little too casual, a little too sharp. "Where's Anna?" someone asked from the hallway. "And Jason?" That's when my smile froze. Didn't drop, just locked in place, like frost creeping across glass in the middle of winter. I excused myself, walked upstairs with a calmness I'd practiced too many times in other situations. The music downstairs began to fade into the background, the sound getting softer with every step I took. The air around me got heavier, like something was pushing down on my chest the closer I got to our bedroom. The door wasn't fully closed. Just enough to hint that whoever was inside wanted privacy, but not enough to block everything out. I pushed it open quietly. And there it was. For a second, time didn't move. The world stood still. I didn't feel anything. No anger, no confusion. Not yet. Just silence, and the faint creak of the door under my tightening grip. I didn't say a word. I closed the door gently behind me and walked back downstairs like I was just heading for another drink. No one noticed my face had gone pale. No one picked up on the shift. They were too busy reminiscing, talking about college parties, big promotions, or whose kid had just learned to ride a bike. I poured myself another scotch. Tasted like water. "Hey!" someone shouted. "We haven't done a toast yet." I raised my glass without thinking. "To loyalty," I said. Our glasses clinked. The fire crackled. I smiled, just like a man is supposed to smile on his birthday. But inside, everything was already gone. The next morning, sunlight pushed through the blinds in thin, pale lines, casting a soft glow over the bedroom. It made everything look calmer than it felt. I lay there, staring up at the ceiling, wide awake. Beside me, Anna's breathing was slow and steady, like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't cracked open just a few hours ago. Her hand brushed against my arm as she shifted in her sleep. I didn't move. Couldn't, really. After a few minutes, I sat up and let my feet rest on the edge of the bed. The floor felt cold, and the whole house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that lingers after a fire's already burned out, but the smoke's still in the air. I made my way to the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and stared at my reflection while the water ran. Same face. Same tired eyes. But something in them was different now. Something I couldn't quite name yet. Downstairs, I made coffee. The way Anna liked it. Dark roast, 2 spoons of sugar, just enough milk to give it that caramel color. I set it in her usual spot at the table, like I had every morning since we moved in. When she came down wearing one of my old college hoodies, humming something under her breath, she paused for a second. "You're up early," she said, brushing a strand of hair out of her face. I nodded. "Couldn't sleep." She looked at the coffee. "Thanks." We sat there in silence. The only sounds were the ticking wall clock and the occasional gust of wind tapping against the windows. She didn't say a word about the night before. Not about where she'd gone. Not about Jason. And I didn't ask. That was the new rule now, I guess. After breakfast, she headed upstairs to get ready for work. I watched her walk away, the way her fingers traced the edge of the banister, the way she tilted her head slightly while checking her phone. She didn't know I was watching. She didn't know I'd already started listening. At first, it was subtle. A mirrored phone backup. A discreet tracking app. Nothing illegal, just smart. I knew how to build systems that could fly under the radar. This was child's play. Within minutes, I had access to everything. Not just texts, but behavior patterns, call logs, photos she thought were deleted, and the little messages people only write when they think no one else is looking. The rest of that day, I combed through it all. Bit by bit. No emotion. No panic. Just quiet, calculated reading. Like a surgeon prepping for a delicate operation. Every message. Every timestamp. Every lie, tucked into short replies that seemed harmless on the surface. But they weren't. At 6:17 p.m. that night, as Anna sat on the couch casually scrolling through her tablet, I asked one simple question. What were you and Jason talking about upstairs last night? She didn't even look up. Oh, nothing much. He just needed some fresh air. We stepped out for a bit. I said. That was it. That's all I gave her. She went back to scrolling. But the silence between us? It thickened. I saw her shift in her seat, just slightly, like something was pressing against her chest. Later that night, I stood alone in the backyard. The air was cold enough to sting, and above me, stars blinked like little lies, beautiful, distant, and not quite real. I closed my eyes. No rage. No yelling. No chaos. Only planning. Only purpose. A week passed. On the outside, everything looked exactly the same. We still ate dinner together. Still made small talk about traffic, broken pipes, weather reports. Anna kissed me on the cheek every night before bed like nothing had changed. And I left for work at exactly 8 a.m. like always. But under the surface, everything was shifting. I'd spent my career designing buildings that could withstand earthquakes. I knew how to make something look stable even when the foundation had already started to rot. I applied that same skill to my marriage. Each day I watched, listened, learned. Every night, once Anna fell asleep, I reviewed what I'd gathered, texts, call logs, photos synced from the cloud. Jason had started sounding different. His tone was careful now. Hesitant. Like he could feel something closing in but didn't know what it was. That was perfect. Fear without clarity makes people sloppy. It was time to apply some pressure. That Thursday, I left work early and drove across the city to meet with an old contact, Nick, a tech guy who owed me a couple favors. I gave him a flash drive and a printed list of instructions. "Is this legal?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I looked him in the eye. "It's not illegal. It's just efficient." He didn't ask anything else. That evening, I surprised Anna with her favorite takeout and a bottle of red wine she used to love. She looked at me like I'd pulled a rabbit out of a hat, pleasantly caught off guard. We watched a movie on the couch like we used to. She leaned into me, head resting on my shoulder. I held her, but I didn't say a word. At exactly 1:04 a.m., my phone buzzed with the first alert. Jason's email accounts had been cloned. Activity logs were coming in real time. I could see every login, every sent message, every cloud-based document. One file stood out, something labeled Pinnacle Client's internal notes. I didn't open it. Not yet. That wasn't the point. This wasn't about revenge. This was architecture. Tension needs time to breathe. Weight needs to settle. If you try to bring a structure down too fast, it crumbles in all the wrong ways. The next morning, I set things into motion quietly. I filed a request for a financial review on our home. I didn't do it directly. That would be too obvious. I used a law firm out in Chicago to send a third-party inquiry. Just routine, just noise. But really, I wanted to know where our money had been going. And how much she had already moved without me noticing. By lunchtime, the answer came back. Anna had opened a secret account 2 months ago. She'd been transferring small amounts, $1, $300 here, $500 there. Enough to blend in. Enough to look like groceries or home repairs. But it wasn't. And the account? It was in her maiden name. I looked across the kitchen at her as she stirred her coffee in slippers. "Thinking about changing your name again?" I asked casually. She looked up, blinking. "What?" I smiled. "Just a random thought." She nodded slowly, unsure, then walked out of the room. But I saw it, that hesitation in her step. That flicker of fear she didn't want to show. Another crack in the frame. Later that evening, I sent Jason a message from a burner account. Just 4 words. He knows about everything. No name. No context. Panic doesn't need a backstory. At midnight, I sat in my home office in the dark, watching it all unfold. Jason tried calling her, twice. She didn't answer. He then started deleting chunks of their message thread, as if that could save him. I had it all backed up, of course. The screen glowed quietly in front of me, the only light in the room. This wasn't thrilling. It wasn't satisfying. It was necessary. You don't take down a house with a sledgehammer. You just pull out the right support beams and wait for gravity to do the rest. It started raining the next morning. Not the kind of storm that makes noise, just a steady, quiet drizzle that makes the world feel softer, sadder. Like everything's been muted. Anna left the house early. Said she had errands to run. I didn't question it. We were both pretending now, sticking to our unspoken roles. She lied. I listened. That was the routine. By 10 o'clock, I was sitting at my desk with a coffee in hand, checking her GPS location from my phone. Her car was parked across town near an apartment complex, the same one Jason lived in. I could see the name of the building right there on the satellite view. I didn't flinch. Just took another sip and turned my attention back to the documents in front of me. At 11:30 a.m., a message came through from my attorney. Financial audit complete. Serious red flags. Call when ready. It was time. That afternoon, I met up with an old client of mine, Robert Hensley. We sat in a downtown cafe tucked into a corner booth, the kind of place that always smells like burnt espresso. Robert owed me favors, big ones. I slid a folder across the table. Inside were transaction records, screenshots, unauthorized file access, enough to raise serious questions. "Want me to run this to the ethics committee?" he asked, already flipping through the pages. "No names. Let them connect the dots," I said. He raised an eyebrow and gave a low whistle. "This'll blow up everything." "Not yet," I replied. "Just enough to shake the ground beneath him." That evening, whispers were already spreading through Jason's office. People don't make eye contact when they know something's about to collapse. Management started making vague calls. HR pretended they weren't watching him. But he'd feel it, long before they said anything out loud. Anna came home around 7. She smelled like outside air and perfume, like she'd spent the day in a life that didn't include me. There was something stiff in her posture. She walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and asked if I wanted anything to eat without even turning around. "I already ate," I said. The silence stretched out between us. She leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "You okay?" she asked. I looked straight at her. "Yeah. Everything's just getting started." Her brow furrowed a bit. She blinked, caught off guard by the way I said it. But I didn't let her dig. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. The rain had stopped, but everything was still wet, the streetlights bouncing off the pavement like broken glass. The whole world looked like it had shattered and was trying to glue itself back together. That night, I returned to the office, the glow from my monitors painting the room in cold light. One message stood out, an official memo from Jason's firm. He'd been placed on temporary leave pending investigation. Another beam gone. I stared at the screen, then opened a folder I hadn't touched in weeks. Not surveillance. Just old photos. Anna and me at the beach. Jason and me with fishing rods, grinning like kids. A group shot from our wedding. Everyone laughing like nothing could ever go wrong. I looked at their faces for a long time. Not with anger. Not even sadness. Just distance. They looked like people I used to know. Like ghosts still smiling in rooms I didn't visit anymore. When I finally came back upstairs, the house was dim, The kind of quiet you don't speak into. Anna was curled up on the couch under a blanket, staring at the TV without really watching. When I walked in, she looked up, eyes scanning me like she didn't know what version of me had just walked through the door. "Hey," she said cautiously. "Evening. You okay?" "I'm always okay," I said, setting down my keys. "Are you?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Tried again. "Jason's been going through something at work. He says it's personal. Not sure what." I didn't react. Just sat across from her. "Strange," I said. "He always seemed so sure of himself." She wrapped her arms tighter around the blanket. "You think someone's targeting him?" I raised an eyebrow. "Who would do that?" She looked down. The pause between us was thick, like a fog that had moved in and started checking all the locks on the doors. "Do you trust him?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She looked up fast. "What? Jason? Do you trust him?" Her face shifted, barely, but I saw it. A flicker of guilt. The weight of a lie she didn't have time to prepare for. I used to." "Interesting." She stood up suddenly. "Why are you asking me this?" I stood too, slow and steady. "Because trust breaks quietly. One hairline crack at a time." She went pale. I watched her trying to hold on to something, anything. But there was nothing solid left. I picked up my briefcase and headed upstairs. She didn't follow. That night, she didn't come to bed. I sat in my office again, reviewing data while the house sat silent. Jason had called her 3 times that day. No voicemails. Just silence. Panic was blooming. I opened an audio file, a recording I'd pulled earlier from a tiny mic planted under Jason's car. His voice filled the headphones, frantic, low. "They're onto me. I don't know who leaked it." I saved the file. Not to use yet. Just to keep. At 2:07 a.m., I heard a soft knock at my office door. I didn't say a word. A pause. Then her voice, muffled through the wood. "Ryan, if something's going on, I need to know." I stayed still. She waited for maybe a minute more, then her footsteps backed away and disappeared into the dark. When everything was quiet again, I opened my notebook and drew a single vertical line down the center of a blank page. On the left, I wrote, "What they broke." On the right, "What I'll take." The house had turned into a museum of silence. We moved through it like polite strangers, avoiding eye contact, sidestepping the corners where our memories used to live. Anna didn't ask questions anymore. I didn't offer answers. The conversations we had were functional. Do we need milk? Did the plumber call back? But never real. That morning, I stood by the front window watching trees sway in the wind. Rain had fallen again overnight, and the pavement outside shimmered with puddles reflecting a broken sky. I heard Anna behind me, her voice hesitant. "You're not going in today?" "I'll work from home," I said. "Too much noise at the office lately." She nodded, hovering in the doorway. "You've been distant. Is something wrong?" I turned to look at her. She looked exhausted, not just physically, but like someone who had been carrying the weight of too many secrets for too long. "I've just been thinking," I said. "About what?" "History," I said. "And how fast it can change." She gave a weak smile. "You've been speaking in riddles lately." "No," I said softly. "I'm just finally being honest. It sounds like a riddle when you're not used to hearing the truth." She didn't respond. Just left the room, slowly. By mid-afternoon, a new encrypted message came in from my lawyer. The financial investigation was complete. Everything was there: hidden transfers, misused funds, secret accounts. The evidence was clear, time-stamped, and ready. Not just suspicions anymore. Proof. That evening, I asked her to sit with me at the dining room table. I slid an envelope across to her. My expression didn't change. She picked it up, eyes narrowing slightly. "What is this?" "An opportunity," I said. "To walk away quietly. No lawyers. No drama." She opened it slowly, scanned the first few lines. Her hands started to shake. "You're divorcing me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. She blinked a few times. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, to explain, maybe. To ask me how long I'd known. But she must have seen it in my eyes. All this time, she whispered. I looked her straight in the face. Yes. She looked away, a single tear falling down her cheek. I never meant to hurt you. I shook my head. You didn't hurt me, I said. You hurt the man I used to be. But I'm not him anymore. She couldn't even look me in the eye after that. She gathered the envelope and quietly left the table. I stayed seated, watching the flame of a single candle flicker in the holder. The house was still again, but this time it wasn't the kind of silence that makes you uneasy. It was the kind that settles. The kind that tells you something has finally ended. Later that night, I stood in the garage staring at the car I hadn't driven in months. Dust coated it like a memory. I opened the trunk and set down a small black box. Documents, backups, evidence I'd never use but would never throw away. When I closed the trunk, the sound echoed off the concrete walls. Sharp. Hollow. Final. A year later, that house wasn't mine anymore. I drove past it once, just to see. The new owners had painted the shutters navy blue. Someone had installed a basketball hoop over the garage. A little red tricycle was tipped over on the front lawn. It looked like someone else's life now. A postcard of a family that had no idea what that house had seen. I didn't stop. These days, I live in a quiet place near the water. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom. Wood floors that creak when you walk too hard. A balcony that catches the evening sun just right. Some nights, I sit out there for hours watching boats drift across the bay, their lights floating low like stars that fell into the water. I don't say much anymore. Not because I can't. I just learned that most words people use don't mean what they think they do. I'm sorry. It was just a mistake. I didn't mean to. People throw those lines around like bandages, but they're really just asking to forget. I didn't forget. Didn't want to. Every move I made had purpose. Every step was deliberate. I didn't destroy anything that wasn't already broken. I just stopped holding it together. I removed the last support beams and let the pieces fall where they were always meant to land. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear Anna's voice in the back of my mind. Not in anger. Not even sadness. Just memory. A quiet voice from some forgotten hallway saying something like, I didn't know what I wanted. But she did. And now she has it. Jason. I don't think about him much. Whatever happened after the fallout, he earned it. Not just because of what he stole, but because of what he betrayed to take it. There's a difference. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low behind the horizon, I checked my mailbox. There was a plain envelope inside. No return address. I opened it carefully, and a single photo slipped out. It was taken at my 35th birthday party. There I was in the center of the frame, laughing, drink in hand. Anna was next to me, and Jason was just behind us, grinning like always. We looked like a perfect little magazine ad for happiness. But someone had marked it. Anna's face had been scratched out. Jason's had been blacked over with ink. Only mine remained. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I walked to the balcony, set it gently on the railing. The wind caught it, lifted it slow like it didn't want to let go, and then it drifted off, spinning once before vanishing into the bay. I didn't watch where it landed. I just went inside and pulled open the drawer where I kept my old notebook. Flipped to the back. Wrote one last sentence. Closure isn't something you get. It's something you build. Quietly. Out of silence. Then I closed the book. And never opened it again. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.